So normally I get people to rate cards in a vacuum, right? Like I asked you, like, do you think this card was played? Why do you think it's good, et cetera, et cetera. Today, we're going to take it up a step further, okay? Rather than showing you one card, I'm going to show you two cards, and you're going to tell me which of the two do you think was better.
Oh God, hot or not for Hearthstone?
I mean, some of them are maybe not hot or not, because some of them both might be good. Some of them might be both trash. It's just, which one do you think was more played? Now, just to make this very clear, because I always get comments like this is for when the card was in standard during its time. Like, it can't be like, we can't look at it like 6 years later and go like, this card's bad. Any questions?
I know, bring it. This okay. Actually is going to add, kind of a yes/no element, so I already feel better.
Conceal is a rogue card, and Wind Fury is a shaman card. Both of these cards were introduced in Classic, so these were in the game when the game first came out.
All right, boomer cards, got it. And am I reading the cards?
Yeah, you can go for it. And I will explain any questions you have, because both of these have keywords where you might not understand what they are.
Conceal, 1 mana, give your minion stealth until your next turn. What is stealth?
Okay, so stealth is your minions get shrouded in a mist. All right, and your opponent can no longer target those cards while they're stealth. They can still get damaged by AoEs. They can still explode and stuff, but your opponent can no longer target those cards.
Can they attack them with their minions directly?
No. Can't target them whatsoever.
Okay. It's a protection spell. You play cool thing, and then you play this, and your opponent probably won't get it off the board, so you'll at least get a chance to attack with it and do cool stuff with it. Other card, Wind Fury, 2 mana, give a minion Wind Fury. What's a Wind Fury?
Is there a magic? I wonder if there's a magic. There probably is. Wind Fury is that your card can attack twice.
Your card can attack twice.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. And this doesn't end with the turn.
No, it does not.
This is an ongoing effect.
Yes, it is.
Oh, so a temporary bit of stealth or a wabam wabam, and you can do it again if it survives until the next turn. Ooh, okay. I can see archetypes for both these cards. Whenever there's an extra combat effect in Magic, it's pretty busted, but it does allow you to attack with multiple creatures when you create extra combat steps. This doesn't do that. There isn't like a combat step in Hearthstone. Each thing gets a combat. I mean, oh God, I know which one is more me. I'm more of a Conceal stealthy mage, but this Wind Fury thing is tempting. I'm gonna say, gosh, I can see both of them. I'm gonna say that Conceal was better. It's cheaper. I can see more use cases where Wind Fury just basically revolves around your creature being good to attack. Conceal can be also built around abilities and other things. It is hard, but it is double the cost, and double is a lot. Going from 1 to 2 is a lot. I'm gonna go with Conceal. Give me Conceal.
Okay, so you are correct. Conceal is a much better card in Hearthstone. Conceal was actually, like, there used to be a Hall of Fame in Hearthstone, which is basically they would have their basic set that never rotated, and only if a card was so problematic they would Hall of Fame it. And Conceal is one of those cards.
It's in the Hall of Fame.
It got Hall of Fame. This card was very good, because what you would do, I showed you last week, or last time we did this, I showed you Edwin Van Cleave, which was a card that you got +2/+2 for every other card you played that turn. So you could make an Edwin, and then you could seal it, and then your opponent that has like a spot removal for it can no longer target it, and then they lose the game.
Let's go. I love it. I already love this format. I'm a master of it. Let's do it.
I will say, by the way, that that was probably the easiest one. So I went through and I was like, I gotta pick one that, like, eases him into this.
Yeah, thanks for shitting right at my cereal. Bell Reaver is 5 mana for an 8/8 creature. Whenever your opponent plays a card, remove the top 3 cards of your deck. Whenever your opponent plays a card, remove the top 3 cards of your deck. All right, the next card for 5 is Cobalt. Okay, the next card is Cobalt Guardian. It's 5 mana for a 6/3 mech, and whenever you summon a mech, gain Divine Shield. I know this one. I've heard this Divine Shield thing before.
Okay, so I'm going to explain some rules here, give you some more information, just so you have this when you make it. So this expansion was Goblins versus Gnomes. That was the very first expansion in Hearthstone. There was a adventure before this, but this was the first expansion. This expansion was entirely based around like mechs, basically. As you can see, they're both mechs here. And Cobalt Guardian gets Divine Shield. Did you want to take a guess on what you think that was? Because you seem like you were pondering.
God, I feel like I've heard it before. I'm gonna guess it's just it's a shiny little graphical thing, but when the opponent punches it with a minion, it goes away, and then it'll take damage as normal.
So I think you're on the right track based on how you described that. Divine Shield is the next time it would take damage, it takes 0 instead.
Yeah, that.
Which is, I think, what you described there. So every single time you play a mech after this minion's already summoned, you can get Divine Shield. And this is an effect that can restack itself, because obviously you could proc the Divine Shield, play another mech, and get another one. With Hearthstone, for Fel Reaver's sake, when you deck yourself in Hearthstone, the game is not over. I want you to just remember that, because Magic, the game does end if you deck yourself. And both of these are mechs themselves. And again, if you think about it, mechs had a lot of synergy during this expansion.
So they're both 5-drops. They're legal in the same kind of decks. One definitely leans into the mech thing, but they're both mechs, so they could work together, but you don't want too many 5s. What would I rather have? I keep thinking of the times that you showed me cards that like get rid of the top card of like the opponent's deck, or things that like destroy your own deck, and those... It seems like getting rid of your own cards is a problem. We talked about like basically they're mythics or legendaries, right? You only get one, and then
yes.
So you could remove your key card. It would be a disaster. It would be a disaster. And it's whenever your opponent plays a card. It's not like once a turn. It's, they chain off. They do like 5 things. Maybe that wasn't popular in the early days, but if they do 3 or 4 things, this is going to burn your deck so fast. Obviously the stats are good, but I'm sure that there are ways to both freeze and destroy creatures, especially 5-drops. And the other card, when this enters the battlefield, when Cobalt Guardian enters the battlefield, it gives itself a shield.
No, it does not. No, it does not.
Okay. Ooh, so it is very easy to remove. If it stays,
very good question to ask.
Yeah, if it stays, it's good, but on its own, I'm guessing this trades down most of the time, which is very bad. Oh, you've given me a tough one. In Magic, it would be Fel Reaver 100% because you get to use your graveyard. Like
fair enough, yes.
It would be a resource generator. You would be so into this card. I'm going to lean on past experience with Hearthstone cards, and I'm actually going against my gut. My brain says it's Cobalt Guardian, so I'm going with Cobalt Guardian.
I hate to tell you this. It's actually Fel Reaver.
Oh, God! My gut was flawless.
Let me try to... I'm going to try my best to explain this. Okay. So the thing with Cobalt Guardian was, you're right. You play this as a 5-mana 6/3, and then it just dies to something. So you would have to wait for this card to be played with something else. And by the time you usually play it with something else, it wasn't actually good anymore, because you'd have to wait for like turn 6, maybe turn 7, which means you're holding 2 cards just to actually give this Divine Shield. It doesn't really ever work out the way you're hoping it does. Where Fel Reaver was played into decks that did not care about their deck whatsoever. You'd play it as the highest cost card, drop a 5-mana 8/8, and if your opponent couldn't answer it, you do 8 damage to their face. So this was like the highest end in an aggro deck. And I wouldn't necessarily call Fel Reaver like one of the best cards, but it was definitely played a lot more than a Cobalt Guardian was. So these cards were introduced in Whispers of the Old Gods. Okay, now this is a really important time in Hearthstone, because this is the first time we had a rotation, and it was like the birth of the standard format in Hearthstone. So the average power level went down significantly because of that. They printed these 2 legendaries, which I do just have to remind you that even though you said earlier, you could only have 1 copy of these in your deck.
Soggoth the Slitherer. Look at this guy. Holy crap. 9 mana for a 5/9 with taunt. Can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. It's like hexproof in Magic. Can't be touched. Okay. And then, yeah, the boogie monster. 8 mana, 6/7. Whenever this attacks and kills a minion, gain +2/+2. The boogie monster and Soggoth. Or Soggoth.
So I do want to clarify that both of these are neutral, so you can put them in any class. And I honestly don't think there's anything else to really say here.
Yeah, big stompers. Big stompers. You have to play this and then attack to get any bonus. but it is a mana cheaper. It is a little bigger on attack. I don't know, man. I don't think it's that close. I think I'm going with the Slitherer. I think that the taunt ability is very relevant at that cost, whereas you play an 8-drop, they could just ignore it and go face, and it's like, doesn't matter very much. And I think the can't be targeted is a nice, like, that is also nice insurance that you're going to do something. This is, in its way, it's like what we call a fog in Magic, which is a spell that you cast to prevent combat damage for a turn. Them dealing with this is going to take a turn out of them, whereas them dealing with the Boogie Monster, they might not even have to deal with the Boogie Monster. So I don't think it's close. It's the Slitherer. There is no question. Tentacles for life. Let's go.
All right, let me set the stage for you real fast, okay? Both of these cards were atrocious.
There almost said that.
There are way better. Like, remember I showed you Yogg-Saron? Remember that guy?
Oh yeah.
There was a bunch of cards like that. There's Kathon, which I don't know if I've showed you Kathon, but we'll get to Kathon later, where he was another huge win condition. And we still have to think about the class of cards in the game. And if you just compare both of these cards to what the classes already had, it was like, why did they make these cards? But you are right. Sagoth was the better card than the Boogie Monster.
Yeah.
At the time, the Boogie Monster might be the worst legendary that Hearthstone's ever seen.
I hope so.
It's pretty, that card is something special. I don't know what they were doing with that card. I almost feel like they thought that it would ramp up too fast, so they like nerfed it at the last second, because even if this card was at like 7 mana, maybe even 6, I don't think it would have even saw play. I was trying to maybe like sneak under the fact that he is 8 mana and Sagoth is 9 mana, so at least the Boogie Monster would be like a turn faster, and maybe he would become a bigger threat. But you saw right through that.
You were trying to catch me always going for the cheaper one. So yeah, very simple way to try to game the system.
Listen, sometimes it is metagaming. I want you to know, for the last one, when I put Kobold Guardian there, because I said class cards are generally better, I thought you were just going to go for it immediately.
I'm still licking my wounds from that one. I should have gone with my gut.
Okay. All right. Now that I've said that out loud, here's your next 2 cards. Let me set the stage for you once again. This is Mean Streets of Gadison. This is one expansion. There's an adventure between Old Gods and Mean Streets. So this was the end of the first standard year, basically. Mean Streets of Gadison was a pretty good expansion. And they had a lot of different win conditions and such. Knuckles is for Hunter. Hunter is mainly an aggressive class. But for this expansion, they decided to do a hand buff kind of thing for Hunter. So while a minion's in your hand, you can play cards that give them buff stats, so that when you play them, they're bigger. Finja is with a tribe called Murloc. I don't know. Magic for sure has tribes. I'm not sure how much synergies really matter in Magic, just from my like really brief experience with it. But Murloc's
huge in Commander, sometimes relevant in Standard.
Okay, in Hearthstone, synergies can like range from being very powerful, or they can range from being absolute garbage. I'm not gonna tell you what this card was, but go for it.
Great, you're so helpful. All right, Knuckles is 5 mana for a 3/7 beast. After this attacks a minion, it also hits the enemy hero. After this attacks a minion, does it have to survive the attack to hit the enemy hero?
No, it does not.
Interesting. Finja, the Flying Star, 5 mana for a 2/4 Murloc with stealth. Whenever this attacks and kills a minion, summon 2 Murlocs from your deck. Stealth. I believe we met stealth earlier. Yes, we do. So this enters the battlefield, and it's shrouded in some misty stuff. And they can't do anything to it except AoEs until your next turn. Does it keep it?
No, so stealth, if it's on a minion like that, lasts until you do an action with it.
Okay.
So you can keep this for 5 turn stealth if you really want to.
Yeah, but you can't do anything with it during that time.
For sure.
So you can't attack. If you attack, it loses it, right?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Okay. That would be busted otherwise. Whenever this attacks and kills a minion, summon 2 Murlocs or Knuckles. After this attacks a minion, it also hits the enemy hero. I mean, the Knuckles are cool. This is a very, like, look at this dude's face. Definitely got it going on. Definitely ready for some throwdown.
Are you talking about the Knuckles?
Yeah, look at this guy. Look at this guy. Yeah, he definitely wants to fight. I like the vibe, but also a very aggro card. And there's value. Rarran.
You're a big value guy?
Rarran, there's value in this card. There's value. Whenever it attacks and kills a minion, summon 2 Murlocs. The The thing that I suss is how often this kills a minion, but it is 5 and it does last till your next turn because of the stealth. So you can set a board. I assume there are cheaper Murlocs. Then the Murlocs can like beat a creature down and then this can finish the job and then get you 2 more. Yeah, that is a thing. I honestly think the Murlocs would be way more popular. Like this effect looks way more fun and interesting to me than Knuckles. The thing with Knuckles, you talked about hand buffs. So this thing being big, like making this thing big is kind of the dream, right? If this thing hits for a lot more, the more this thing hits for, the better it gets, the better the dream gets. You're killing them. Oh my gosh. This one, like I could see both, but they're very different. And my value brain says it's Finja and not close. And my meta brain says you are like trying to help me and or set me up, and I'm not sure which one it is. I am so close on this one. I feel stupid. I like Finja a lot more, and the last time I liked the card a lot more and went with the other card, I was punished. But I still have this. I'm going with Finja. We're doing it. We're going with the gut. We're going with the heart/gut.
Okay, so I want to, before I reveal the answer to you, I want like you to know and like the audience to know. I didn't give you any context of what Murlocs are available and what hand buff cards are available, because both of those are relevant to this. Knuckles is a really good effect, right? Especially if you buff it. It is a card that helps you maintain a board state while hitting your opponent's face. That's a pretty good card to have. Finja is something that I like to refer to as mana cheating in a sense, because if you kill a minion, you're basically pulling 2 cards from your deck. You're drawing 2 cards and you're summoning them. So Finja is the much better card compared to Knuckles. And it's not even close how much better Finja was compared to Knuckles.
Hell yeah.
So congratulations.
Let's go Murlocs, maybe.
This, I'm going to show you one of my favorite mechanics of all time in Hearthstone. Unfortunately, these have 3 cards each because it's a quest, but we're going to start with the first 2. I got to explain how these work just so you have a concept of it. So I'm going to let you read the card first, and then I'm going to explain how these work.
The Marsh Queen is 1 mana for a quest. Play 7 1-cost minions, and the reward is Queen Carnassa. You want me to read the other one first before I know what the queen is?
Yeah, I just want you to have a concept of how these quests work before we go further.
All right. Obviously busted. 1 mana. Fire Plume's Heart. 1 mana quest. Plays 7 taunt minions. Reward Sulfurass.
Okay, we'll get to what Sulfurus and Queen Carnassa are in a second. The reason I wanted you to read those is because quests were a really cool mechanic to add to Hearthstone. I don't know if there's anything like this in Magic. You're gonna have to let me know. The way the quests work is that when you do your mulligan, they always start in your hand. They're guaranteed to start in your hand, which means you always have this to be played on turn 1. But the main thing I have for you to understand is A, this is a spell, B, these start in your hand, and C, they all give you a very powerful reward.
I'll be the judge of that. We have to see this queen and this sulfur ass.
So I gotta just clear. Also, they're both legendaries, so you can only put 1 in your deck. Now, with both of these rewards, one of them is a minion and the other one is a weapon. They could vary between what the actual reward was depending on what quest you were doing. But these are the 2 you're comparing.
It's a dinosaur. Game over. I'm done. We have a winner. So Queen Carnassa is 5 for an 8/8 beast with Rush, Battle Cry, shuffle 20 raptors into your deck. Now you gotta show me a raptor.
I will in 1 sec. Also, at the time in Ungoro, I think maybe they buffed this card. Hold on, I gotta double check here. Give me a second.
Buffed? Made it better? Are you not a professional creator? How do you not have this set up already?
I forgot they fucking buffed the card. Okay, here we go. That's the actual version of it.
All right, 5 mana, 8/8 Battle Cry, shuffle 15 raptors into your deck. What's a raptor?
Okay, and I just gotta make sure they weren't buffed either, just in case. Hold on, I think they're fine. Okay, so that's a raptor.
That is a 1 mana 3/2 with Battle Cry. Draw a card. What the fuck? 15 of these? What?
I have a story to tell you after this.
Oh my god! I don't need to read the other card.
Hold on, maybe you want to read the other card. Maybe you want to read the other card first.
I'll read the other card. Okay, I'll read the other card. Fine. So 3 mana, 4/2. Is this a weapon? A weapon.
It's a weapon.
4/2 weapon. Battle Cry, your hero power becomes deal 8 damage to a random enemy.
Just a quick reminder, unless you have cards that can manipulate your hero power, you can only use your hero power once a turn. So every single turn, you could do this for 2 mana and deal 8 damage to a random enemy.
Cool. And die insect. Yep. Okay, so that's the hero power that it becomes.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. All right. I mean, that's cool. Not saying that's not cool. It's 8 damage to a random enemy. It's fun. It's not dinosaur. It's not 15 1 mana 3/2s that draw cards. It's like the greatest dinosaur of all time. There's so many babies. This dino fucks. All right, quest, play 7 1-cost minions. So turn 1, do you have to, this starts in your hand, you have to cast it, yes?
You don't have to cast it, but yeah,
you
if you want to
would probably cast it. Turn 2 is 2 minions, turn 3 is 3, so up to 5. And then turn 4 would be 6, 7. So turn 4, 8, 8, and now your deck is made up of 1 mana 3/2s that draw a card. God, I'm sure you're gonna tell me that for some reason, obviously taunt minions are probably better. All right, it's a useful ability. I'm not saying it's not. You can play a whole bunch of taunts so that the opponent can't kill you, and then you make your weapon, and then you start just nuking their board every turn with die insect, and that sounds sweet. I would play that deck to death. But I don't know if you've noticed, I have a weakness. It's called dinosaurs. The Raptors are insane. This card is absolutely nuts. I love this card. The reason that the other card is probably better is the other quest, Fire Plume's Heart, is probably better because I doubt there's that many good 1 mana, 1-cost minions. It was a smaller standard, like you said, and there are never that many good 1-cost minions. I'm going with the dinosaur. You can't stop me. I'm going with my heart.
Do you remember the player called Life Coach? Do you have any idea who that is?
Yes, a vague idea, mostly from my interactions and stories with you.
Okay, so Life Coach at the time was a pro Hearthstone player. He was very good at the game. He did take a very long time to do his turns, and he kind of got his like little nickname called Rope Coach because no other player would take that long to do their turns. When he saw the Marsh Queen, he literally thought the game was going to be the worst state it's ever been. And as far as I am aware, he quit the game because the Marsh Queen was being added to it. He thought it was a huge mistake. It turned out the Marsh Queen was not good, and Fire Plume's Heart was infinitely better than what the Marsh Queen was. Here's the problem with the Marsh Queen. When you play this card, you are guaranteed to get 1 less card in your mulligan because you have to play the quest. That means you have to build your deck around 1-cost minions, which isn't inherently great because most of the time 1-cost minions really start to lose their value and their presence as the game continues forward. Also, shuffling 1 mana 3/2 draw a card into your deck is awesome, but you're basically just cycling that for like 3/2s every single time you play one of these, which isn't also great as the game continues going forward. You know what's really good is dealing 8 damage a turn for 2 mana for every single turn after the quest is finished, which is why Fire Plume's Heart was a way better card.
I get it, but Dino. Dino. I know.
This one might be a little bit more difficult as well because you don't actually understand like hero powers too much because you haven't really played around with them. But having a guaranteed 8 damage every single turn was just really good. Also,
it does seem awesome. I would play it. I would play it for sure.
This is for Kobolds and Catacombs. So this is not the next expansion, the expansion after that from Angora, which means we have 6 expansions in the current standard format. The important thing here is the keyword recruit. You want to take a guess what recruit is?
Well, every time I go to the mall for the last 20 years, somebody by the Office of the Army Armed Forces comes out and recruits me. So I imagine you have to go directly to 3 minions of some type somewhere and talk them into joining your cause.
You know what? That's not actually a bad description. Recruiting is pulling the minion from your deck and putting it into play.
Okay. It's right to the battlefield.
Yeah, right to the battlefield.
Call to Arms. 4 mana, recruit 3 minions that cost 2 or less. And Oaken Summons. 4 mana, gain 6 armor. Recruit a minion that costs 4 or less.
Armor, for the sake of what it is just 6 extra life.
Yeah. Obviously, a more expensive minion is nicer, all, but when you think about like the mana cost, There is variance in Oaken summons because it could be a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4. Now, if you wanted to maximize Oaken summons, you can just cut the 1s, 2s, and 3s from your deck and always hit a 4. I believe it would work that way. Does that sound right?
Yes, you would. Yeah, you would.
Okay, so that's how you maximize the card. So Call to Arms recruits 3 minions that cost 2 or less. If you wanted to maximize Call to Arms, you would have the very best 2 mana minions in your deck, and for 4 mana you would get 3 of them, and that wouldn't be mana break even, that would be mana cheating, and you'd have more bodies in general. Oaken Summons is the thing I think I would be an interesting like brew and build, because if there is that one card that breaks the game, this makes sure you have consistency with it, but I believe it's not close, and Call to Arms is the better card. I'm going with Call to Arms.
Okay, so that was actually insanely good analysis. One of these cards was nerfed, and it was Call to Arms. Both of these cards were very good. They printed very specific 4-drops for you to basically recruit 4 Druid for this card. In the wild format, which is every card, I still believe Oaken Summons is actually played. Call to Arms was absolutely one of the best cards at the time, and it was nerfed from 4 mana to 5 mana. And even at 5 mana, the card was still very good. The Boomsday Project.
Okay.
So the Boomsday Project was after rotation. Kobolds of Catacombs, Journey to Ungoro, and Knights of the Frozen Throne, which I did not show you any cards from, was the 3 most powerful sets of all time in Hearthstone. They were very, very good. So with rotation coming in, they had to kind of match the powerfulness of those 3 sets. Every single class in the Boomsday Project got a legendary spell. The legendary spells, again, are only 1 cost or only 1 copy in your deck, but they all have some pretty powerful effects is what I'm going to describe it as. These are for Hunter and Mage.
Flark's Boomzooka. 7 mana. Summon 3 minions from your deck. They attack enemy minions, then die. The differences in like card text, like rules text between Magic and Hearthstone is, I love the sentence, they attack enemy minions, then die, compared to like how that would be in Magic. Would be so weird sounding and convoluted. And this is just funny. Okay, let's do the next one. Luna's Pocket Galaxy is 7 mana for an arcane. Change the cost of minions in your deck to 1. What? What? Oh my god. Oh no, these are very different. Once again, you are like pitting the kind of Timmy, we call it Timmy in Magic, where it's somebody who just wants to do the biggest thing, not necessarily the most efficient thing. Like the biggest, most insane thing, the Pocket Galaxy, the Boomzooka, probably just an efficient, kind of aggro like explosion. Summon 3 minions from your attack. They attack enemy minions, then die. They attack enemy minions. Do you get to choose which minions they attack?
No. I will also say if there are no minions on your opponent's board, you could still play this. They just won't attack anything and they'll die. Which is very funny.
Yeah, nice play. We got all this context about what's busted. You said a million words I can't remember. But it's a huge format. It's a huge format, and some of the cards in it are busted. I'll
just say this. The average power level of a card in the Boomsday Project comparatively to a card like Kobolds and Catacombs was significantly worse.
For me, mana cheating, especially when it comes to only, like if Boomzooka could go face, it'd be pretty amazing. It can't. So it might not even like do that much for you, to be honest, especially if you win the random lottery, you get some cheap minions and they just run into bigger minions and die. But the Pocket Galaxy, good Lord, like think of the possibilities. Pocket Galaxy. For me, it's Pocket Galaxy.
Is that just because you're a blue player though?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to double check. So both these cards were released at 7 mana. Flark's Boomzooka, I think legitimately did not see any play.
Yes.
Even though I think the card isn't necessarily that bad. The real thing about Hunter during that time is Hunter went with a different deck, which was basically Mech Hunter. Hunter didn't really have a reason to play Flark's Boomzooka. Luna's Pocket Galaxy at 7 mana did see a little bit of play, because if you could play this card and then just not die, the turn that you play it, the chances of you winning that game probably went up by like 200%. I want you to know, for some fucking reason, during the next year, after rotation, they did a little bit of a buff patch to spice things up. They buffed Luna's Pocket Galaxy from 7 mana to 5 mana. Do you think it was the most powerful card in Standard?
I mean, the most powerful is a serious title, but I mean, that made my eyes get big. Yeah, we're building with that 100%.
Yeah, so what ended up happening was, I don't know if this has ever happened in Magic for you, but if you drew that card on turn 5, the game was like, that's what it was. Descent of Dragons, when that was released, was the most powerful set ever to be released in Hearthstone. That expansion was fucking insane. Every single class got a dragon aspect, which are big, powerful dragons that have their own unique effect. These two I'm showing you are for Warlock and Warrior. A little like class description of the two of them. Warlock is like black in Magic, and they like to manipulate their health for some kind of benefit, for usually for tempo. Warrior is about, you know, fighting for the board, defending themselves with armor, and enraging their minions. I like hitting them.
Okay. The heck?
Zeraku.
Zeraku. The Warped. 8 mana, 4/12. Whenever your hero takes damage, summon a 6/6 Nether Drake. And Deathwing Mad Aspect. 8 mana, 12/12. Dragon Battlecry. Attack all other minions. Interesting. So, Zeraku is in Warlock, which you described uses their health for resources, which is interesting because it says specifically whenever your hero takes damage, not when it takes damage from an enemy source. So you could damage yourself to make 6/6s.
I also want to clarify one more thing. Sorry. The Warlock's hero power is 2 mana life tap, take 2 damage, draw a card.
That could make you a Nether Drake.
It could.
We busted it. We solved the meta. Okay. I mean, that's cool. That's very, very good. As 8 mana, 4/12. That booty is thick. Now looking over at Deathwing. Deathwing's like, hold my beer, I'll remove it. The battle cry is attack all other minions. Is that chosen randomly, or does it happen simultaneously? Yes.
So when you play the card, it will happen in the same sequence, but the minion it attacks is in random order.
It also says attack all other minions. Deathwing will attack your own stuff?
Yes.
That's accurate?
That is accurate.
Dude, this cannot be stopped. Just going off. Cannot contain the Deathwing. Oh man. It is it's a board wipe. In a way, it's a board wipe, unless the board is too big. And I don't think for 8 mana you want a conditional board wipe. I'll take the resource generator. Give me the Warped. Give me double Z over here, the snoozer.
Double Z. Okay, I'm gonna tell you a little story here. All right.
Yeah.
Warlock is my favorite class by far. It's not even close. I think Warlock's the coolest one. When I saw Zeraku for the first time, I was like, holy shit, that card looks incredible. And the reason I thought it was really good was not only because of the hero power, but because you play this card on your opponent's or on your turn. And if your opponent is a board centric deck and they hit you in the face, you get a 6/6. And if they do that more than once, you get multiple 6/6s. That never worked out. That card sucked ass. Deathwing Mad Aspect was insane. Probably, I don't want to claim it was the best dragon aspect, but it was definitely top 2. It was very good because you would put Deathwing in a control deck. So when you got to 8 mana, what would often happen is you would clear your opponent's board, still have the Deathwing left over, and you didn't have any minions on your side of the board. So it was a board wipe that potentially left a really threatening minion. Okay, this is the last pair. Now, all of the pairs I've shown you so far are cards that came out in the same expansion as the other one. This is not the case. I'm going to show you Kathon. I'm going to show you 2 different versions of Kathon because they've printed 3 for some reason over Hearthstone's years. Both of these, I would consider them as win conditions. One is just way spicier than the other, but it's going to be interesting to see which one you think is actually good. I will tell you right now, one of these was way better than the other, but we're going to start off with this one.
Do you want me to read them one at a time this time?
I'm gonna let you read one at a time. I'm gonna let you wait to see what the other one is.
What's all this?
Just read the first card. You'll see what it is.
Okay. Got it. So it's like rating cards with Rarran in Hearthstone is actually rating 5 cards to rate 1 card.
It's one
good
card
and
with
easy.
extra steps. Your Magic cards have like 3 books on them sometimes. What are you worried about?
You're right. So Kathon. Kathon?
Kathon.
Kathon.
Okay, Kathon. That also works.
Kathon the Shattered is 10 mana, 6/6 minion. Start of game. Break into pieces. Battle cry. Deal 30 damage, randomly split among all enemies. Break into pieces. I imagine I'm about to read the pieces. The game begins. Does this have to be in your hand to break into pieces?
No. Like it will. Does it? I don't think it could start in your hand. I'm gonna be honest. I actually don't think that's impossible.
It's impossible. Inside the deck, somewhere in the very first, we're starting the game sequence, it breaks into pieces.
Yes. So right after the mulligan, they'll break, and then they'll shuffle these 4 cards into your deck.
And now you have a 44 card deck, and there's no.
You would have a 34 card deck.
34 card deck. I use exhaustion as a win con, so you know a few extra cards goes a long way.
Mental exhaustion.
Yeah. Eye of that thing. Piece of the thing. 04. Deal 7 damage, randomly split among all enemies for 5. Okay.
So when you play one of these pieces, you're basically repairing Kathon. So you have to play all 4 pieces to get Kathon back into your deck.
Back into your deck.
Back into your deck. Not
Then
even
you
your
have
hand.
to. Then you have to draw it again.
Then you have to draw it. Yeah.
Then you have to cast it.
Yeah.
Easy. Okay. Heart of Kathon. Piece of Kathon. Deal 3 damage to all minions for 5. The body of Kathon. Summon a 6/6 Kathon's body. Okay. And then 5 mana for a piece of Kathon that destroys a minion. And none of these seem cost efficient, but they are all very control-y. They extend the game so that you can better, I guess, achieve the quest, which is whatever the hell this thing is. Okay, great. So, and if the board is empty, the opponent, in theory, dies because it's 30 to the face,
yes.
right?
I'll give you. I'm just trying to set you up as much as I can before I show you the other cards.
You sure are.
The other card's also going to break your mind.
Oh, good.
So that's why I want to make sure you understand this card as much as possible. We're going to go through baby steps here. So now, even if you don't kill your opponent, 30 damage is probably enough to clear the board and do a significant amount of damage. Fatigue is another win condition because adding these extra cards that don't draw you another card can extend your lead into the fatigue battle, which means you'll probably win that game if it goes to there. So there's multiple reasons to actually play this card. The question is it better than this card?
Mechathon, 10 mana, 10/10 mech with Death Rattle. If you have no cards in your deck, hand, and battlefield, destroy the enemy hero. So this dies, and if you have stone cold nothing, you win.
Yep. That's it.
That's it.
That's the card.
Is it better than 4 pieces of control-y stuff into an interesting 10 mana win condition kind of quest in a box? Is just have nothing win the game. God. So I'm trying to think of, like, if this were a Magic card, immediately your head goes to like all these terrible cards that if you like somehow play them with this card, like all the weird scientific in the lab, I could do this, then set up this, right? Mm-hmm. Specifically, there's a card in Magic called Flash, which for 2 mana lets you put a creature from your hand onto the battlefield, then immediately sacrifice it for just 2 mana.
Damn.
Yeah, and that with this, you would just have to dump your hand and keep your battlefield empty, which might be reasonable, depending on what the cards do.
You would have to go through your deck, though.
Oh, yeah, no deck. Awkward. They would find a way to do that in Magic, too. I mean, this is too situational, right? Like, if you tell me, okay, in Hearthstone, going to the end of your deck, I don't know how common it is because I can't imagine the game's always taking that long, but you can probably get to the bottom of your deck. You've shown me some cards that, you know, get rid of cards in your own deck. And then after that, you have to empty your hand, but you're still drawing cards every turn and it hurts you to do so. And then you have to destroy this. You have to find a way to actually kill this. A little easier in Hearthstone because you can run it into, I don't know, the opponent's creature after wearing this down. A little easier. And if they don't do something about it, they're going to die over 3 turns.
Seems pretty easy, right?
No, that doesn't seem easy. I think it's easier to have this card break into pieces, play a long game over time, find and cast these cards and have the Shattered Sithun come together, and just have that happen over the course of playing the game. I think that naturally playing the game doesn't necessarily mean, even when this card, you get to the point where you have 10 mana and you have no deck, it doesn't mean that this card is still a win. I'm going with the pieces. I'm going with Sithun, the Shattered. This is...
I hate to tell you this.
No! No, please don't. No. No. I'll quit. I'll never return. Oh my God, no.
Kathon was actually a better card than Kathon the Shattered.
How? How did this happen?
Okay, so
I'm shattered.
If I'm fully transparent, like Kathon wasn't like an insanely good card, but it was definitely played. It was a win condition for the Druid class. Unfortunately for Kathon the Shattered, it was just too much loss of tempo for like the Eye of Kathon realistically. But to go through all of that and then the Kathon gets shuffled into your deck was atrocious. But yeah, Kathon was a better card than Kathon the Shattered.
I guess win the game is a good ability.
But anyways, that's all the card I had to show you today. So I hope you have fun.
God. Oh, it sent me out on a like
David,
flaming pyre. Give me a Viking funeral. My career at evaluating Hearthstone is dead on arrival. I'm done.